Romanian film called The Death of Mr. Lazarescu. This came out in 2005, considered by many a very strong independent film, relatively low budget, running time about 2.5 hours. So what we have is an old retired man, Mr. Lazarescu, living in Bucharest with his wife in a small, not very well run apartment, and very soon he feels unwell. And after worrying about what is wrong with him, they call a paramedic who eventually arrives. Some of his neighbours gather around to see how he is. The paramedic doesn't necessarily know what is wrong with him, has a suspicion, but says this guy needs to come with us to a hospital. And thereafter, that is the first half an hour, the 2 hours that follow are an incredibly engaging 2 hours of the paramedic taking Mr. Lazarescu from one ambulance to another, one hospital to another, and each hospital that they reach he is rejected at. They haven't got enough space, they don't want him for one or other reasons, and there is an increasing tension building up as we see him getting less and less well, feeling more and more in pain. And by the time we reach the 4th hospital, he is finally admitted, and they discover that he has a blood clot in his brain. They operate that and realize that they have saved him from potential death from that clot, but they have discovered something else which is wrong with him, which is also quite severe, and that is where the film leaves an open ending as to what might happen to him, although the prognosis is not very good. The film has been widely described as a dark comedy. I understand why they see it as a dark comedy, although that's not what I would describe it as. It's a realistic film, it's a strong narrative film. The main sensation that I had while watching it is that I thought I was going to watch the beginning of it, and I was dragged into this narrative, I was pulled into it. Maybe because it describes a medical system, a hospital system, which is not only exclusive to Romania, but it's also something that other countries have experienced, maybe with understaffing and maybe with too many needs of medical attention, some urgent, some less urgent. The fact is that this old man is not given priority, and we follow him on a 2-hour odyssey to find the right place to get treated. There is dark comedy in the fact that some of the doctors who reject him for maybe not great reasons. There aren't full explanations, and perhaps their reactions are a little bit over the top, which really suggests the director was trying to maybe bring in an additional dark comedic theme to events that are actually quite serious, that you might encounter. It's not common, but you might encounter a doctor who's rather rude because they're under stress and not enough time, too many patients. But I've never really personally experienced any medical professional lose their temper rather quickly with a patient, especially an elderly patient. And in this film that does happen a few times, and we sort of learn to deal with the characters that are the medical professionals, and then we're continuously dealing with the increasing patience that this old man has within his situation. It's certainly a film that sucks you in. It sucks you in from the moment go. It sucks you into a life that is a rather mundane life. It's not a very exciting life that he leads. Potentially this pursuit for a hospital for treatment is one of the more exciting things that has happened to him. I don't want to confuse exciting for positive. It's not a positive thing, but it is a thrilling journey, and it is very interesting for a wide range of audience to enjoy if they've had similar experiences, if they have not had similar experiences. So it's a very powerful, very interesting journey. It's a very personal journey. It's a very small-scale story. During one night, so many people are having incidents. So many people are having, health issues, and so many people are getting access to hospitals, or at least trying to. And then we're following one person who, as a result of other incidents that might have been more or less serious, isn't able to find his place. And you feel for him, you feel for his age, you feel for his partner and his family, and you're on this journey with him. You're both wondering what is the next hospital going to say, and you're also wondering how is he coping, how is this time wastage affecting him personally. It's a very strong film. It's shot in a very realistic way, very naturalistic way. The camera never feels intrusive, although we're always very close to him, we're always very close by. He appears in, I think, every scene of the film. It's a dark film. It's a dramatic film, but it does make you realise the larger scale of things, the grander scheme of what it's like to live in a large city where anything can happen. I came to learn via research after watching the film that the same actor who was playing the old man wasn't very well and passed shortly after the film was made. I don't know how much of the film features characters essentially playing either themselves or versions of themselves. I'm led to believe that it's a fictitious film, but it's heavily based on reality. I think the reality is portrayed incredibly realistically. There's not one moment where I wasn't convinced by what I was watching. I think the acting is really strong. You feel from the moment go, from the beginning of the film, the actors as if they are characters who could be your neighbours, especially if you're living in an apartment block. You feel a connection with them. You feel the real gritty reality of living potentially a working class life without many luxury means, certainly without private healthcare. You really feel the effect that that has on common people, any common person, especially retired people of age, where accessibility is an issue. So it's a really personal film where empathy is pouring out for the characters and for the situation. So the film doesn't really leave you very easily. I remember finishing the film quite late at night. I thought about it as I was getting to sleep, and I even thought about it the next day. It sticks with you, and that is one of the magical things about the film. It really does stick with you. There are issues, and some people don't get the attention they need when they need it, and universally what that really brings together is a strong story that several people can really understand, and it's been made into a piece of art, a piece of narrative art with a touch of poetry. Some people think also a bit of dark comedy, which I can partially understand, but for me it's really a little bit deeper than that. When I think of dark comedies, I think of other things. For me it's really a personal message, a personal diary has been opened, and we dip into this person's life and try to understand them and try to follow them for a little bit, and accompany them on this journey that has an ending that in part we can guess and in part we experience with him. I think it works. I think it works very strongly. I think if there had to be any additional element added to the narrative structure, but if we did have something that transported us into a different place, maybe a different kind of character of doctor, or maybe a different kind of hospital, that maybe might have made it that little bit more fulfilling. It is partly that mundane feel that it has, that mundane style that makes it work and that makes us feel his boredom and his frustration. But I think there are other ways to approach that, and I think if there had been an additional character, maybe giving hope or someone giving less hope, that might have worked well. But I think for the scale that it was made at, and for the story it wants to tell, and for the emotions that it gives me as an audience, and for the feelings that I sense and what I get out of it when I finish the film, I think it really delivered in every way. And it's a film that I do recommend, not as a happily enjoyable film, but as a really thorough, dramatic piece of documentation and strong acting and and powerful storytelling.